Hello everyone. So, good day to all of you. So, how are you? So, good to know. So, last time we met already, right? So, who among of you does not know me yet? So, very good. So, I am Sir Ronel. So, today we will just continue our discussion about ecosystem. But now we will start to give a room for a new topic. So, let's start. But before anything else, here are learning objectives that at the end of this discussion, we are expected to achieve. So first is to identify the types of organisms based on what they consume. Next is to appreciate the importance of each organisms to one another and to conserve the living and non-living organism. So let us all be guided with our learning objectives. So it's a review time. So last time we discussed something about ecosystem. So I want to ask to all of you, so what have you learned yesterday? So yes, Mr. Aguila. So very good. So on our previous discussion, we tackled about environmental factors, which are the biotic and abiotic factors. So very good, Mr. Aguila. So to start our discussion, I will ask some questions related into that images that shows on your screen. So all you have to do is to listen and of course answer what I'm asking for. So do I make myself clear, guys? So very good. So do you love playing? How about exercising? So the question is, what makes you productive when you were playing and exercising? So what do you call to that thing that makes you active to perform an action? So the hint is this word is usually obtained from eating foods and having enough sleep. So for our first image, so it starts with the letter E. So what is this word? So yes, I shared something. So yes, that if your answer is energy, so you are correct. So that word is energy. So for us to accomplish and do a certain task, so we need a great amount of energy for us to exert the best effort that we can. So very good. So our first word is energy. So for the next word, so are you familiar with the fluids or liquids? So as you can see, water is a liquid. So river is also a liquid and other bodies of water. So the question is, what do you call or how do you describe the water of this river? I mean is, how do you describe its movement? So it starts with letter F. So if your answer is flow, so then your answer is correct. So earlier, we revealed the word energy. And now we reveal the word flow. So it means that our discussion or the focus of our discussion for today is all about energy flow in the ecosystem. So this. So energy flow in the circle of life. So the focus of this chapter is how does the energy flow through living system? And answering that question will be our focus for today's discussion. So can I ask one question? So are you familiar with this image, class? So take a look at this image. So who's familiar with this image? So yes. So right. So this image is domino. But how this domino trail related or helpful in describing the movement of energy through living system? So very interesting question. But if you want to know the answer, so kindly listen to me. So let me play this GIF first. So take a look at this GIF. So this domino has something to do with energy flows in our ecosystem. So when you push the domino at the start of the trail, so you can see that the energy from your push transmitted from one domino onto the next. So your push represent the energy started the run. So this energy moves along the line as each domino topples into each other. And also that energy moves from starting point through living systems in a one-way direction. So this movement, so we can describe this movement as the flow. So as what we revealed or mentioned a while ago, flow. So the sun is the starting point for the most or major living things on earth. So but how this domino related to the energy flows through our ecosystem? So as you can see, so like the domino, so the energy flows through ecosystem in a series of steps of eaten and being eaten. So the organisms are interdependent or highly rely on each other for their survival. So the energy from the sun flows to producers, consumers, decomposers, and back to producers, and the cycle repeats itself. So that's the cycle. So if you want to understand clearly this discussion, so let's proceed on the next slide. So photosynthesis. So the series of energy transfer starts from the sun. So the process of using sunlight to make food is called photosynthesis. So it is possible because the plants or the plant leaves contain pigments called chlorophyll that makes this photosynthesis possible. So here is a simple GIF of plant uh, chlorophyll. So as stated here, the chlorophyll absorbs the sunlight and processes the ingredients and makes sugar or the plant food and oxygen. So as you can see, so this is the GIF of how the chlorophyll absorbs the sunlight to make the plant food. So here, so but who or what do you call to those organisms who benefited from this sunlight? So here it comes the producers. So producers also called autotrophs. So these are the organisms that produce their own food. So the producers doesn't rely on any organisms except from the sunlight. So they just need the sunlight and of course the other abiotic factors to survive. So some of the examples of the producers are the trees, algae, and green plants. So if you walk around on your backyard and look on your surrounding, so you can see these following producers. So always remember that the producers are the only organisms that can capture the solar energy of the sun. So meaning that they are the only organism that can make their own food. So and these producers will be eaten by the consumers. So consumers are the organisms that cannot make their own food. So as what I said earlier, the producers are the only organisms that can make their own food. So the consumers rely on a food source for sustenance. So these consumers are subdivided into primary and secondary consumers based on what they eat. So for the primary consumer, so we have here the herbivores. So herbivores are the organisms which feed on plants. And for the secondary consumer, so we have the carnivores and omnivores. So the carnivores are the animals that only eat meat, and the omnivores are animals that eat both plants and animals. So here are the examples of the consumer. So for herbivores, we have here the carabao, the rabbit, the deer. So these are the organisms that eat plants. And for carnivores, so we have here the fox, the hawk, the eagle, and the lion. So these are the animals or organisms that eat meat. And for the omnivores, so we have here the snake, the dog, the cat, and of course the ants, and also the humans. So they are the omnivores. So they eat both plant and animals. And then the decomposers. So the decomposers are organisms that feed on dead plants and animals and their waste. So the decomposers are the last link in the transfer of energy within the ecosystem. But they also help in recycling nutrients within the ecosystem. So as you can see here, so some of the examples of decomposers are the worms, mushrooms, and centipede. So to sum up, so here is the producer-consumer decomposers relationship. So the producers make food and then consumers eat producers. And then the decomposers feed on dead producers and consumers and their wastes. So, so if we would graphically illustrate the producers, consumers, and decomposers relationship, so we will end up with this energy pyramid. So this energy pyramid shows how amount of energy changes as it moves through the food chain or food web. So from this energy pyramid, so as you can see, so the base of the pyramid represents the producers and the largest area in the level. So it means that the this level or the base of the pyramid contain the greatest amount of energy as it contain the greatest or the largest area. And then the other level becomes narrower because as we know that the energy decreases into the other level. So for us to clearly understand this energy transfer, so or the relationship, so let's discuss it in a more illustrated way. So we have here the food chain. So are you guys familiar with the food chain? So have you ever heard about it? So if you want to know if your ideas are all right, so let's tackle the food chain. So a food chain shows the sequence of how organisms obtain their energy. So simply stated, it is a single fat flow chart of what ate what. So the arrows point from the source of energy to its consumer. So a food chain usually starts with a plant and ends with an animal. So from the food chain, so the decomposers enter the cycle or come into the cycle to clean up waste and returns nutrients into the soil. So to clearly understand the food chain, so here is the example of food chain. So, so as you can see, this food chain is a single fat flow. So the energy here is transferred from or transmitted from the from sun to the leaf, then transferred to the worm, then transferred to the chicken and to the hawk. So it shows only a linear transfer of energy. So have you ever wonder or have you ever have an idea that this food chain was just a portion or was just a part of a very big food cycle? So yes, a wide or a big food cycle called food web. So yes, food web. So a food web describes the feeding relationships of organisms in an ecosystem. It shows how a variety of food chains are interrelated with one another, as what I said earlier. So food chain is just a part of this food web. So a food chain shows only a part of a food web. So yes, the food web represents the interconnected food chains within an ecosystem. So here is the example of the food web. So yes. So be familiar with this example. So it is self-explanatory. So as you can see, so there are many food chains in this food web. So there are many consumers of rat. So there are many consumers of frog. There are many consumers of butterflies. So we can say that it is a single fat flow of energy transfer. As we can see that there are many producers, there are many consumers in this food web. So as you can see in this comparison, so we have here the food web and the food chain. So the food chain shows one fat of energy. So we have here one producer, one primary consumer, secondary, and then tertiary consumer. So it is only a linear and a single path flow of energy. While we have here the food web. So as you can see here, everything is connected. Everything is interconnected and rely to one another. So the producer here can be a consumer of more organisms, and the other organisms can be also a prey or a consumer of the other organisms. So that's the relationship between the food chain and the food web. So always remember that the food chain is just a part of this food web. So the food web shows everything is interconnected to one another. So let's see if you learned something about our discussion for today. So we have here seed words. So this is identification. So identify what is being asked. So on the first item, so what do you call that animals that only eat plants? So reflect on what we discussed earlier. So if your answer is herbivores, so your answer is correct. The next, so mushroom and bacteria are called. So if your answer is decomposers, so you got it right. So on the next item, so animals that eat other animals are called. So if your answer is carnivores, so your answer is right. So plants are called blank. So if your answer is producer, then your answer is correct. So on the last item, so animals that eat plants and other animals are called. So if your answer is omnivores, so your answer is correct. So very good. So who got the perfect score? So very good. So on our next activity, so it says that you have to arrange the following animals in correct order by putting numbers 1 to 4 in the box below. So we have here a simple food chain that we discussed earlier. So all you have to do is to arrange it in a correct sequence. So who will be the producer, who will be the primary, secondary, and tertiary consumer. So if your answer is something like that, so if your answer is 3214, then 3241, so you got it right. So your answer is correct. From this food chain, so our producer is of course the plant. The next is the fish, and it will be eaten by a sea lion, and the sea lion will be eaten by a shark. Then the next food chain is our example a while ago or earlier. So our producer here is of course the plant. Then this plant will be eaten by a worm. Then the worm will be eaten by a chicken. Then the chicken will be eaten by a eagle. So who got the perfect score? So very good. So for this part, so what have you learned today? So have you learned something? So let's see if you learned something today on these activities. So as what I have said earlier, so we will apply all the learnings that have you learned today on this activity. So we have here a multiple choice activity. So you just have to refer on the food web that have show on the left side on your screen for your answer. So let's start. So on the first item, so what are the predators of rat? So A. Python, wolf, eagle. B. Frog, wolf, python. C. Wolf and python. And D. Eagle and wolf. So if we will look on the food web, so we will see that the predators of rat is letter A. So if your answer is letter A, then your answer is correct. The next. So what is the consumer of a flowering plant and lavenders? So it asks consumer. So A. Grasshopper and butterfly. B. Butterfly. C. Fruit fly. And D. Grasshopper. So again, based on the food web, so we can see that the consumer of a flowering plant and lavenders is letter B. So if your answer is letter B, then your answer is correct. The next. What are the predators of grasshopper? So it asks the predators. So A. Frog. B. Rat. C. Frog and rat. And D. Frog, rat, and python. So again, so based on the food web, so we can see that the predators of grasshopper is letter C. So if your answer is letter C, then your answer is correct. Then on the next item, so what are the phrase of eagle? So A. Thrush, python, and wolf. B. Python, wolf, and rat. And C. Python, wolf, thrush, and rat. And letter D. Python, frog, wolf, and rat, and thrush. So if we will look on the food web, so we can see that the eagle has the most phrase or has the most organisms to eat. So based on this idea, so we can see that the phrase of eagle is letter D. And on the last item, so what are the producers of butterfly? So A. Corn, flowering plant, lavenders, and mangoes. B. Corn. C. A flowering plant and lavenders. And D. Mangoes and lavenders. So based on the food webs, so we can see that the producers of butterfly is letter C. So if your answer is also letter C, then your answer is correct. So for your assignment, we have here an identification activity. So all you need to do is to identify what are the terms needed to answer the following questions. So as you can see, so I have provided the choices that you need to choose to answer the following questions. So all you need to do is to read and analyze properly what are the terms needed based on our discussion earlier. So please be guided with our direction. And also, you have to make a reflection. So you will be guided with these following phrases. So you have to start your reflection with these phrases. I have learned that and I understand that. And that's all for today. So I hope that you enjoy and you learned something in this session. So thank you for your participation and for your time to attend in this session. So have a great day everyone. Thank you.